Zelensky has spoken at the World Economic Forum in Davos, suggesting European leaders have avoided action on the conflict with Russia. The first trilateral peace talks between officials from Ukraine, Russia and the US are being held this weekend.
Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Davos on the last full day of a meeting dominated by talk of conflict, in which his was the forgotten war. A last-minute date to meet with Donald Trump came on the day the American president launched his pet project, a diplomatic club for compliant states that began as a plan to end the war in Gaza, the Board of Peace. The more urgent question in Kyiv is President Trump bored with Ukraine.
What is your plan for Ukraine? What will you say to Volodymyr Zelensky today?
Ukraine, as you know, today I meet with the president and we'll be discussing it. We're meeting with President Putin today or tomorrow. And some people are going over, and I think they're getting close. A lot of people are being killed. We got to get it done. If we don't get that done, it would be a disgrace.
A one-hour meeting with President Zelensky was Trump's final engagement. He left the Ukrainian leader, for whom US security guarantees are vital, to chide European allies.
President Trump led an operation in Venezuela, and Maduro was arrested, and there were different opinions about it. But the fact remains, Maduro is on trial in New York. Sorry, but Putin is not on trial. Europe looks lost, trying to convince the US president to change. But he will not change. President Trump loves who he is. And he says he loves Europe, but he will not listen to this kind of Europe.
Volodymyr Zelensky has just finished speaking in the hall behind me, and he sounded like a man who has run out of patience. And perhaps little wonder, while European leaders here have been fixated on Greenland and Donald Trump, Ukraine has felt like an afterthought.
Sorry.
Do you feel Ukraine has been ignored this week in Davos?
It's not ignored. It's understandable that in Davos there have been a lot of different questions, challenges, you know, but it's just forget about the war, you will not solve the problem.
Ukrainian business leaders have been in Davos trying to raise support for a country enduring its fourth winter of war and the coldest in decades, amid blackouts and heating failure.
We cannot wait for outcome of this process. We need immediate reaction, and the only reaction is to force Russians to stop attacking energy infrastructure.
What is the message to President Trump?
It's very clear. Not just to President Trump, to every president of so-called free world. Unity is very important. Divide and conquer. That's the rule to destroy someone, was and still and going to be. And that's what Putin actually does.
The day ended with Trump's envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner heading to meet Vladimir Putin in Moscow, as Ukrainian, Russian and US delegations prepare to meet in the UAE for the first trilateral talks.
Thank you very much, everybody.
After days of disruption and division, a deal apparently closer, but far from done. Paul Kelso, Sky News in Davos.